Hello YouTube. I've recently watched a video by God Must Die, wherein he questions why our criminal justice systems seem to place so much, or even any weight, on the consequences of a crime. I thought this was a really good question, and I thought I'd make a video outlining what I think are the two main arguments for doing so. Firstly, let's recap God Must Die's arguments. His main point seems to be that it seems unfair to punish offenders differently if they take the same actions that lead to different outcomes. He specifically talks about falling asleep while at the wheel of a car. Many people fall asleep briefly while driving, and because they don't kill or injure anyone, they will receive little or no punishment. However, if you fall asleep and crash and kill someone, you will likely receive a significant sentence. The example he talks about is the Great Heck or Selby rail crash in the UK. In this case, was it fair that the driver received a 5-year sentence for falling asleep, when we would never have imposed the same punishment had 10 people not died? The first argument for considering consequences when sentencing is a strictly pragmatic one. To determine an appropriate sentence for a crime, it is important to consider the offender's intentions when they committed it. However, determining an offender's intentions can be difficult or impossible, and a criminal justice system has to rely on other factors that allow us to infer an offender's intent. For example, let's consider the crime of burglary. Where I live, there are a number of aggravating factors for burglaries. That is, factors that let us imply worse intentions for the offender. These include being in company, having a weapon, committing the offence at night, or while other people are home. The idea here is that a burglar who has a weapon can be taken to have worse criminal intent than one who doesn't have a weapon. Now, none of this is proof of bad intent, which is why a judge has a range of sentences that they can give. However, all of these factors must be backed up with evidence, and they're subject to the same kinds of checks that apply in other aspects of the criminal justice system. For example, an offender can appeal, they have the right to challenge these factors that are being taken into consideration, etc., etc. Now, to return to the Great Heck rail crash, since the motorist's actions resulted in 10 deaths, we can infer that he was likely to have been more reckless than other motorists who fall asleep at the wheel. Now, you can argue whether that is an appropriate inference in this case, but generally we will expect more serious criminal intent from offenders to correlate with more serious consequences, and so the inference is generally sound, as long as it's not the only factor we consider. The other argument for considering the consequences of a crime during sentencing comes from an interpretation of utilitarian ethics. The utilitarian idea that an action's morality is determined by its effects can lead directly to the idea that a crime's severity should primarily be measured by its impact on victims. That is, that murder is worse than attempted murder precisely because it results in death. This can seem patently unfair, which is a point that God Must Die makes in his video, when two offenders have identical intentions that lead to disparate outcomes. However, an offender's intentions are not always particularly mitigating. Consider parents who refuse their sick children medical attention in favour of giving them faith healing. They may earnestly be trying to help their child, but it still makes sense to punish them. Firstly, it will deter other parents from relying on faith healing. It will help to rehabilitate or correct those parents so they won't continue doing that, and also removes them from society to protect any of their other children. Now, I'm not saying that this is absolutely the correct response in these situations. What I am saying is that even though someone may not have intended for the outcome to occur, we can logically still punish them on the basis of the outcome that actually did occur. Again, as long as it's not the only factor we consider. I hope all that makes sense, and until next time, try and stay awake while driving. See ya.